Okay, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for coming out on this beautiful day. Please, after this, go out and enjoy the weather. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Breathe deep. So today we're here to discuss our broadband. We've been discussing broadband in East Haddam for a little over 3 or 4 years between the beginning, which was a broadband introduction and trying to figure out whether or not broadband was something for us. We had a broadband feasibility study done September of 2022, and now we're doing a broadband implementation committee. Members of the committee are here. Tom Savigny is our chair. Nicole is here from Entry Point. Entry Point is the firm in which we've been working with. She brings the technical expertise, so I'm going to actually just hand the floor right over to Nicole. She's going to, give you guys a brief understanding of what this broadband means and what it's going to do for you guys, and then we are here to answer any questions that you may have. We have another one of these same kind of presentations, more geared toward our business clientele at noon, and then we have another one at 7. We're going to be taking notes as far as what your questions are, and we'll hopefully add those to our East Haddam Fiber website. If you haven't been on that, please go to that. And we'll continuously be updating that with more information as we answer your questions and your concerns about what all this means. So please feel free to listen to Nicole, write down notes for your questions, and then we are here to answer your questions. So we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say and what you're interested in, and hopefully we can answer questions or learn more about what questions our town should be asking. The deal with this thing is that the more of us that participate in fiber, the cheaper it becomes. And the fact that the town wants to put together this fiber network, what we're basically doing is we're building a superhighway so that many providers of internet can compete to keep our prices low. So when somebody like Frontier, who's been here putting up the superhighway, they own that. They have to pay for it. They have to pay for the work on the poles. Whereas if the town does it, we have something where we don't have to pay for that pole use. And that already makes it cheaper. But the more competition we have in town, the better we all make out for fiber. Fiber is important because the connectivity of fiber is so much better than the current internet. And we learned during COVID that it was very difficult for the kids to be home, for all of us to be working from home, and all of us trying to get on the same internet. Now with a superhighway, there's going to be plenty of bandwidth, and we should be able to get on there with, it's quicker, faster, more advantageous. But I'm going to stop because I know Nicole has much more to say. So thank you, Nicole, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for having us today. I think where I'd like to begin is kind of back up and start from the beginning, if that's all right with everyone, and talk about kind of why we're here, right? Oh, it works. All right. So because of COVID and everything that we experienced with distance learning and working from home and the challenges, right, that we experienced, all of a sudden it became clear in this country that internet, there are many people who aren't connected, many people in this country who have a limited connection, and others who do have a connection but pay an extremely high price for that, right? And so we're asking ourselves, should broadband become an essential service? Is it like electricity, water, sewer? And I guess that's really the question you need to ask yourselves, ask your families, is it something that ought to be considered an essential service? As we move on, the reason we ask that is because historically, broadband has been supplied to us through private infrastructure, either through our cable company or our telephone company. And so when you consider that, right, they've owned the infrastructure based on what Irene said. And so when they own it, it's private. They don't have to allow anyone to do anything on that infrastructure. So they control costs, they control what runs over the wires. But when you look at a public infrastructure, then you're opening it up and you're treating it like a utility. So therefore, you're able to manage and use the infrastructure for the public and what you want. Make sense? Okay. It's kind of like the highway, right? So if FedEx and UPS had to build their own roads to your home, that's what, in essence, we've done with broadband infrastructure. These lines, they're privately owned, and they're all building their own roads to your home or to your business. What if you opened up those infrastructures and everybody could travel on them? So FedEx, UPS, right? Anyone else delivering a service. That conceptually is what we're trying to move towards. So the nature of a community infrastructure, when you think about what are those benefits, what it offers is ubiquitous access and reliability. So you're connecting everyone. There isn't anyone left behind. Affordability, so you're able to manage costs and you're able to manage that infrastructure long term. So you're creating a level of stability. And then I think, my personal opinion, this is probably one of the most important, is the enhanced emergency communications piece. So, and we'll get into that and the security and how that works in just a second. Any thoughts or questions so far? Is it all making sense? So what has been developed in the marketplace is what we call open access. Open access is how we're able to do more with broadband, with that fiber. So currently, right now, you have one line, whether it's a fiber line or a cable line, a telephone line, coming into your residence, all right? What we're suggesting is a fiber line that's able to do more. So it's inviting more services into your home. You're through the different internet service providers, and we'll show you a demo on how that works. You're also able to virtually, and it's all done in software, so this is all done in technology and software. You're able to then have public safety, K through 12 distance learning. You have a smart city, security that you're able to then run all on this single fiber line. And again, so without getting too technical, it's taking one fiber line and through software being able to slice it up so that it's able to do different things, so that everyone gets individual access to these things. So one of the things Tom and I were talking about last night is it's very common in an open access network environment to have a shared connection. So Frontier, for example, when they run fiber to your home, you're sharing that connection with potentially 30, 70, 100 homes. So if you're buying a gig of bandwidth, the chances of you ever really actually getting that full gig are, especially during high traffic times, is probably less of a chance of that happening. But with a single fiber line to your home, it's non-shared. So you're not sharing that connection. That's what makes it possible for us to be able to do more with that fiber. Okay? Is that making sense? Okay. So open access, when we talk about doing more with that fiber, it really provides you with that uninterrupted access. All right, so no more buffering, no more getting kicked out of your Netflix, all right, things like that. It provides a marketplace. So think of Amazon. Go out to Amazon and everything's out there, right? It's a marketplace of things. That's in essence what we're able to build through virtualizing this fiber is a marketplace. And right now that marketplace offers multiple internet service providers for you to choose from at a click of a button. We'll show you a demo. But then it also will spur innovation. And what is that innovation? We don't know yet, right? I mean, when these came out, right, and all the apps, did we ever envision that we could do what we can do with these phones, right, and the apps that are available to us? So that's really what we're considering here, right? That's what we're developing the software platform to do. And then it really becomes an engine for economic growth. All of a sudden, you think to yourself, wow, if I have, a gig bandwidth symmetrical service to my home, then people who do work from home, like myself, who use, the Zoom and the Teams meetings every day, you may have kids at home who are gaming or going to school, people who are watching Netflix or Hulu. All of that now becomes possible, and it's uninterrupted. And so, really, I don't have to live where I work anymore. I can live where I choose. And that's, when we say economic growth, a huge attractor, right, to individuals who work from home. So pricing. This is a question on everybody's mind, probably the most important, right? And right now, what we're doing is we're looking for the level of interest in East Haddam. So last year we did an analysis, and we did some projections, some cost projections, forecasting and modeling. We came up with the fact that if we were to get a 60% take rate, meaning individuals who signed up for service, it would cost probably between $70 and $75 total for your internet service a month. And then we did a comparison just recently. On the 18th of October, we went out to look to see how it compares to Comcast and Xfinity. And I'm hoping we're fair. We want to be fair. And here are their costs. Comcast is cable, so that's a big difference. Cable does not have the ability to do what fiber does. And then Frontier is starting to run fiber. All right, but again, that's a shared connection, which is different, and it's limited and really doesn't give you the capability of doing what an open access system does, like what we just talked through, how you're able to virtualize and do a lot of things. It really only does the one thing. Plus, it's privately held, and you're not really able to run other services over that, right? No smart grid, smart city, things like that. So these would still be available to the community, assuming Comcast and Frontier still offered services, or Comcast and Frontier could come onto the open access network and offer their services. And we'll show you how that'll work. So it's not one or the other, right? There's a lot of scenarios that could play out, but you could still potentially just stay with what you have if you wanted to. However, if East Haddam does get the level of interest, that 60%, then we have something to take to the bank, literally. We have a very good message. There are a lot of funding paths out there. What that looks like right now, we're not sure. We feel that we have a good opportunity with federal government path, but that's kind of all still in the works, if that makes sense, to identify kind of what that looks like. There's an application process that we'd have to go through. We'd have to bring kind of this, 50 to 60% level of interest and say the town is committed, and then we would iron out what all those financial details would look like. Our goal is to limit any liability to East Haddam. That's the goal. Okay? Questions there? Thoughts? Yes?
Just a point, my experience with both Comcast and Frontier has been when I enter into a relationship with them at a certain price, it tends to go up over time. So I started with Comcast at an introductory rate of $79. I think I'm up to $117. And I know I can call them and jaw them down.
Yeah.
I do that.
It's exhausting, right? It's exhausting. Yeah, I'm going to threaten you. I'm going to leave. I'm going to do that. So here's the deal. The idea is that the more people who come on to the network, the more residents and businesses in East Haddam, the less expensive it gets. So when you think about the business model in building a network, it's in three pieces. First, you have the infrastructure costs. Well, at some time, those infrastructure costs are going to get paid off, right, over 20-ish years. So those costs go away. So then you've got your maintenance and operations. Those never go away, right? If a line breaks, you got to have somebody out there to fix it. All right. If the box in your home, we call it a VBG, a virtual broadband gateway. If the box goes out, somebody has to replace it, right? There's going to be, huts and containers and things like that house the fiber, switches, things break over time. So that's maintenance and operations. That never goes away, but we hope to keep that manageable, right? That's the objective. And then you've got your internet service costs. What we're reflecting in the $70 to $75 is a $10 internet service provider cost, because when you introduce a platform and invite competition, think Amazon or think your app store on your phone, where you have options, all of a sudden competition comes into play. So you have all the different packages that you're offered today at a very different cost structure. So, and we have clients that have $9.99 internet service provider fees. They're also $25, $35, but $10 gig, 1 gig symmetrical service is what we're reflecting in that, because it's what our clients have. If you want different packages at different speeds, those prices will go up and down from there. But that's what's reflective there. So the idea over time is that these costs come down. Think long-term price stability. Yeah.
Wait a minute. We need to get you on a mic, so I can bring the mic back.
Sure.
Because we didn't hear Pete's question.
All right, I have a couple questions. One, isn't fiber by inherently symmetrical? Are you saying Frontier is not offering symmetrical fiber?
So
Does symmetrical mean same upload, download speed and?
but we're saying 1 gig is what is the minimum
No.
that we're going to be offering symmetrical.
Right, but you're saying Frontier and other vendors are
I'm
not
not
offering
saying
Frontier? Okay,
Saying that here you have their 1 gig, 500.
and that is symmetrical.
Yeah.
Other question, is it going to be a hybrid system, or are you going to run fiber directly to the house, or will it be a combination fiber copper?
100% fiber.
Where is the cost for being a rural town? We have a lot of homes like mine that are set way back. That's a long fiber drop. Who incurs the cost of the fiber drop from the street to the rear lots?
No, I get the question. So again, if we get the level of interest, right? We're not signing anything today. It's about interest. Would you support a network of this nature? That is when we are going to go through kind of that financing application process. The objective would be the same cost for all residents.
No matter if you have a back lot?
So if it's 500 yards to your home off the road, it would be the same cost for you, ideally, as it is someone who lives, in a planned community.
And also, how would you guard these public companies coming in and just lowballing and
We
not
can't.
get? Yeah. And has that happened?
They will. So that, again, it's a philosophy, right? And the town and everyone needs to embrace and buy into that philosophy of connecting everyone and investing in a community-owned network, one that you control locally, that invites competition, all right, and it has long-term longevity. That is the goal, right? And you want to own that and put on it and control it what you want as a community. So there's the difference, right? We talked about the private networks. They own them, they control them, they tell you what you can and can't do, versus in a public community network, you can use that for a variety of things like we talked about.
And how about redundancy? I had an experience of a fiber drop on another home we own, and then a contractor took out a main line. We were only out an hour. CenturyLink was able to route us around.
Yeah.
With a larger public, how would a smaller enterprise like yourself be able to get the network back up with routing? What type of redundancy are you offering on the network?
So we do plan for that in our engineering and architecture phases. And that's where your maintenance and operation costs come in, right? We have somebody on the ground that would then work through that with you, just like your experience.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is that going to fit in there? Oh, you have another question right behind you.
I'd like to back up a moment, and I'd like to understand exactly who are you, and what is your motivation for this? How are you? What's in this for you? Let's start there.
Okay, what's in it for me? So we own a company called Entry Point Networks, and we, our partners, developed a software because it actually bloomed out of rural Idaho. And our inventor not being able to get access to his home. And so he said, this is ridiculous. He's an engineer. He's our chief CIO, chief, what do we call that? Chief inventor. Let's go with that. He created this software. We have patents, and the idea is, honestly, behind it, that we want to connect everyone. There is no reason why anyone should be left behind. The unserved, the underserved, everyone should have equal access to the internet.
Are you presently under contract to the town and doing something in terms of consulting, or is this an investment that you're making for the future returns of selling your software?
We're currently under contract with the town to go through this kind of education and engagement process to do some discovery to see if the town would be interested in a network of this nature.
Okay, the next thing is an expansion of the previous gentleman's question. In my particular case, we have underground utilities. So moving fiber to our town means you're going to have to pull through the underground facilities. Are you planning to, is that part of the plan? Or,
Absolutely.
so you would, okay. So the next thing, the question I have is that we all have experienced a town maintained service of one sort or another. And we have varying levels of degree of confidence in the town to do what needs to be done, especially in the case of an emergency. So, I mean, I think the man's question is valid in terms of how is that going to happen? Who are we contracting, or who do we propose to contract the infrastructure to? So that's one of the questions. The second question is that any internet connection requires to be connected to a node. The node is the larger, there are nodes all over the country, and so whether it's AT&T or Comcast or whatever, they have a node on the internet, and they are legally established, and they provide access for other people. So who is going to control our node? Who are we going to connect to? So that's another question I have.
Okay. So the first question, and remind me.
Maintenance.
Maintenance. That'll be outsourced most likely. And we'll go through an RFP process to identify exactly who that would be. We'll look at pricing, quality, all of the things that would be required of that service provider. So that's first and foremost. We would look to see who we would outsource that to. Unless the town wanted to take that on. That's also an option. And then number two, that is kind of designing the infrastructure. Where are we going to connect into the backbone, the nodes? That is all part of the design and engineering phases. We'll do a high level. They'll actually come out and walk, measure. They'll negotiate and work through that entire process to identify where all those connection points will be. Again, to the gentleman's point, redundancy, right? How is that going to happen? All of that will be in that architecture phase, engineering phase. We've not gotten there yet.
Thank you.
Is this a good time to also talk a little bit about the municipal gains situation so people understand that as a municipality, because we're a nonprofit, we have access to the polls free of cost?
Yeah, and that's a good point. So Teresa, who's on the committee, is going to be much more knowledgeable than I am regarding pole access. But where there is conduit underground, we will, through that design and engineering phase, run the conduit underground. Where there's not, and there's only pole access, we will run on those poles. And because we would be doing this as a nonprofit kind of joint venture with East Haddam, right, for lack of a better word right now, and all of that kind of needs to be, again, solidified. But the idea is that the town has access to those poles. I do not believe, I could be wrong, but there is not a cost. I believe that's a state statute, that the town has access to those poles to hang anything they desire, obviously with a reason. But that should be fairly straightforward when we get to that phase in the design. Did you want to add anything? No?
No, that is the state statute.
Okay,
Yes.
that's a state statute. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Do you hear?
Is it on?
Linda didn't come running and tell me it was.
Can you say your name too?
Yeah, Mary Augustini. Does it have the same taxes cost, like the $10 a month that you pay for phone now, for all the taxes you're paying?
So this is, those costs are all inclusive. So when we say $70 to $75, that's including all costs.
Okay.
Right.
And secondly, if you have underground power, but it's not in a conduit, how would you get this to your house?
So the power, you understand that?
The power was put in about 40 years ago before they were putting them in conduits.
In conduits.
Okay, well, there's still got to be a path.
Well,
Right.
yeah, there's a,
Yeah, so a fiber line is actually not a raw line, it's enclosed. And so I'm assuming we could run along the same line that your electricity runs, down the same path.
so you'd have to dig a trench then.
Is it, so what happens, like the power lines are underground and they're just not encased in anything?
That's
Right.
Okay,
40 years ago, they didn't encase them, I don't
okay,
think. They just laid them on
okay.
gravel.
So, yeah, my guess is they'd try and figure out a way to run it along the same line. So how they would do that, I am not a technical expert. But they would get it to your home one way or another. And what I mean by that is it may take a little bit more engineering, but they'd figure out a path. I mean, if something breaks or if it needs to be replaced, how do they do that now?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Are they like just digging it
Dig up
up?
the yard.
They're digging it up.
Dig up
Yeah.
the
So
yard, yeah.
there's a lot of different ways. So it could possibly be micro trenching. It could be somehow pulling it. Like, so at my home, I have a combination, and I'm set back from the road, and I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. And so I have a combination of poles and stuff they've trenched, and things that they've tried to pull underground. And so I'm guessing it would be a combination of what we'd be looking at in that type of scenario.
So you wouldn't really know until someone was out there and actually looked
So-
at your situation.
Exactly, and that's part of the process, right? So the engineers will come out and they will physically, so we work with a couple of different engineers. One has a beautiful software technology that maps everything. The other comes out and physically walks, and they say, is what this software program told us really going to work, right? And they say, all right, it's going to work here, it's not going to work here, here's what we need to do, right? So the design of how they're going to access different homes and properties may be different, right, for a variety of residents. It'll just depend on what the circumstance is. Your circumstance is different.
Is it working?
Oh, it's working, yes.
I'm John Olin.
Hello, John.
I have some general questions about the overall financing of this and cost to the town, and also whether there's federal funds for broadband. Thank you.
Yes. So there are, and that application process, the BEAD funding, will definitely be something that the town will look at to qualify for those dollars. You're also considered a rural area, which benefits you greatly. So there are rural dollars to also be had. I know that at the state level, there's some advocates that would like to see nothing more than East Haddam connected, and are, for a program of this nature. So, and then financing. We'll look at potentially joint partnerships and ways to find non-recourse financing for the town. And then the ability to either own the network in the future. So I would love to be able to be more specific with your questions. The path that we're looking at right now is federal dollars, which would be available based on your rural nature of your community.
A follow-up, is it possible to give a rough figure of what startup costs to the town would be?
Do you have those numbers?
No. The startup cost?
We do have we have the feasibility numbers.
Yeah.
So we do have, and that's a great FAQ. Let us go back and we'll add that to the website. And that's the other thing with the website. As we learn more, we're going to be adding information to the website. So questions of this nature, right? We're better prepared to answer as we kind of go through the steps. But we did do that feasibility analysis. We can put some kind of general numbers out there. Now, it may not be cost to the town, but cost overall for a project of this nature, right? Because we're not exactly sure how the financing is going to work yet. Like I said, we're looking at a lot of different federal funding programs that hopefully limit any liability to the town. That's the goal.
We're looking at probably $13 to $18 million to do the infrastructure. And the town will not be bonding. There's going to be no special tax or anything like that. A nonprofit corporation will be set up, basically, and they'll take loans out from a bank. And then in the future, the town will have an option, if the town so wishes, to actually purchase the infrastructure at a later date. But that's basically the game plan right now. But there will be no special tax or bonding or anything like that for the town to do.
So as we get more clarity and more, I think, detail that we feel confident in won't change, we'll put that on the website so that everyone has access to that information. The whole goal is transparency, right? That's our whole goal here. Can we do really quickly? I think this will be really interesting for folks.
Yeah.
Let's show this video really quickly, and then we'll take more questions, because I think this will be really insightful. Give me just a second.
A customer on an automated open access network switched their internet service provider in less than 60 seconds because the service provider has been moved to the cloud. What does this process look like for the consumer? From the subscriber portal, a customer can view all available ISPs and service plan options. To subscribe to an ISP service, a customer sits on the Internet Service category and is presented with the available companies and service plans. Once the customer selects and subscribes to the plan they want, an ISP network connection is automatically, and within seconds, their internet services are configured. The customer's dashboard displays the subscription information, and the customer can now access the internet. If at any time the ISP does not deliver the quality or reliability the customer expects, they can simply access the subscriber portal, cancel their service, and go through the subscription process to select a new ISP. cancel or unsubscribe to their existing service, the customer simply clicks unsubscribe. The system automatically disconnects their service. The customer can then go through the subscription process with a different ISP, and in a matter of seconds, a new broadband network is established with the provider. Returning to the customer's dashboard, it now shows they are subscribed to the new ISP.
In other words, you don't have to call anybody.
A customer
And no text gonna come to your house. It's just clicking buttons to sign up for whatever, and you get the choice of your internet service.
So, and I think what I want to make really clear here is that this is an automated open access system. There are other open access systems out there in the marketplace that they're all manual, meaning you're still dealing with somebody coming to your home. So in order for this to work, you have to have fiber to your home. And when I say 1 gig symmetrical, right now at home, I have both Comcast cable as well as a fiber, a shared, remember I talked about that shared versus non-shared, shared fiber line to my home. We use both, and we do it for fun. And it's honestly because sometimes one works and the other doesn't and vice versa, or one's better, and there's 3 of us working from home, so there's a lot of bandwidth being used. And when I do the tests both on cable and my shared fiber network to my home, yes, I am buying symmetrical service, but I am not receiving symmetrical service. I am constantly doing speed tests, and I have not ever seen a symmetrical service up and down. When we talk about fiber to your home on a non-shared network, the likelihood of you having those up and download speeds symmetrical when you do your tests is very likely. So that's a big difference. So I did want to point that out because the non-shared fiber network to your home and the automated open access is what makes that possible, right? At the click of a button, you can switch your internet service provider in your home or in your business. If all of a sudden you're having issues with your internet service provider or you're unhappy for some reason, you can just go and in 30 seconds, click a new one. And so people say, well, how does that work? Because you're canceling your internet to your home. Well, because you're part of a network. And there's what we call this it's a virtual broadband gateway, a VBG box, the size of your router that sits in your home, and it's a computer. And it's smart. And so that is, and it's connected to a network. And that is what makes all of this possible. It's the software within that VBG that communicates back and forth to the network. So a router just routes you, right? And it's about the same size. This actually is what enables and empowers the ability to be able to switch your provider, to have multiple providers into your home. Let's say you wanted to have an internet service provider for your business, you work from home, and then you wanted to just have one for your family. You could have 2 internet service providers into your home at one time if you wanted, or more. So there's really no limit. And that, I think, is what the idea, right, that we're bringing forward. It's unique, it's long-term, it's futuristic. Yes? That's
Get a mic.
Yeah, my name is Joe Pandoff. My question, you answered some of it just now, but so the way I understand it, if we're choosing our own providers, my question regarded customer service. So would we be relying on them responding if we had issues as opposed to the actual network that we're involved with? Because I've had experiences with both Cox Cable, or not Cox Cable, with Frontier and with Xfinity, and I found that their customer service is very different. Over the years, I've liked the fact that Xfinity, they actually have centers where you can go and exchange your equipment if you doubt that it's working. Whereas Frontier got rid of their centers years ago, and it's kind of frustrating dealing with them for customer service.
Sure, they ship it to you or something like that.
Right. Well, but we won't rely on our network for customer service. We'll rely on the ISPs.
So it depends on where the issue is. So, for example, if it's with the internet service provider, let's say the internet service provider goes down, right? You just can, to my point in the video, you can, if you're just switch your internet service provider in 30 seconds. So if your current internet service provider goes down, it's their fault, you call them or they message you. The idea is that we'll have alerts to let you know XYZ internet service provider is down, cause is unknown. That can cue you to say, all right, I'll just click over here and switch my internet service provider, and then you're back up online. If you don't want to do that switch, you can call, you can see what the issue is. You know, they can walk you through, maybe something became unplugged, right? And they can walk you through those steps. Now, if it's with the actual box, sometimes it's your router, right, that goes out. If it's with the actual VBG box, again, maintenance and operations, you'll have a customer service number that you call. Say, you know, again, we'll have an alert system that says your box is malfunctioning. Call, you know, maintenance and operations at 1-800 or whatever it is, and they'll come out and bring you a new box. Mm-hmm.
A very small and silly. Really working? My name is Xenia Coulter. This is a very silly question, but if your internet is out, how can you switch to anything or click on anything?
Great question. Yes. So that VBG that sits in your home, that box that sits in your home, is connected to a network that is not reliant on the internet. And so that is what gives you the power to switch your internet service provider. And wouldn't it be cool if you could, you know, if you're moving into a new home and on your computer or your tablet, not only do you sign up for your internet service, you can sign up right there for your electricity, you can sign up right there for your gas, you can sign up right there for whatever sewer or garbage, transfer, everything. The idea is that everything will be right there. And that kind of is, in the sense, a true smart home in a way, where you're able to connect everything. So because it's connected to the network, you have that ability. And those boxes, you don't own those boxes. Those boxes stay with the residents or the business. Those boxes have a code that are associated and attached. So it's always talking and connected and communicating. Okay.
Thank you, Nicole. I have just two quick questions.
Okay.
So since you, Dave Johnston on
Hi,
Main
Dave.
Street. Since you have two providers coming into your house, do they both feed through your Cat5 cable that runs throughout your house?
Yeah.
Do you have to run separate cable through your house? So let's say we just have you, your optical line coming into our house. Do we need to run new Cat5 cable if that's all we have?
So the idea is that we're going to run fiber. So unless you wanted to keep that cable, you would not need it any longer.
No, but so if we don't want to keep Comcast, let's say, and we just want to sign up with and coming into our house, can your system run through our current Cat5 cable that runs through the house?
No, it needs to run on the fiber, on a direct fiber, single fiber line.
Are you
Once
talking
it's,
about
once it's inside the
Cat5?
house?
Sorry, you talking about the Cat5 that's already wired in your house, right?
Yes.
To say a bedroom.
Right.
Yes. You can use that existing. So that access point, you would then feed off that and run cable
I see
to
what
say
you're
a bedroom, your garage, wherever.
Okay.
And so in
Yes,
different scenarios, you
yes.
could also combine that with wireless. So for areas that you can't run cable or, you know, a shed or whatnot, you still have access to it. So it's more about getting it to your house, right? And then
Right,
you
I
can go
understand
And then you can
Okay.
run
do
it
whatever you
anyway.
want from there.
Yeah.
Okay. My
Yeah,
sec-
so we have everything in our house runs off of Wi-Fi. We have a couple of hardwired things. Sorry, I didn't, thank you for clarifying that. So yes, it's through a combination of resources.
Okay, my final question is, I think there are 169 towns in the state of Connecticut. How many towns you're currently servicing?
So in Connecticut, none at this time as far as this open access. We have worked with five towns in doing feasibility studies on an open access system. The others are Ridgefield, Brookfield, who else? New Fairfield and Wilton and East Haddam.
Have you gone out to their population yet to see what kind of interest you would have?
So they all just finished their studies a little after East Haddam did, and Ridgefield is right now out to RFP on engineering. So they skipped this step. So if everyone recalls, last year we did a survey on would you be interested, right? Your survey overwhelmingly supported the concept. So instead of just jumping to the engineering step, we wanted to come out at East Haddam, said, let's do some further exploration, education. Let's see if our town really would support such an infrastructure. And so we're taking that step. Ridgefield jumped to the engineering step because they're going to fund it themselves and bond for it. And so they want to know what it's going to actually cost. So they're looking at hard dollars right now.
So am I correct that currently you have no paying customers in the state of Connecticut?
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
Are there any neighboring states where you have customers?
So Sherburne, New York is
Okay.
up and live. The
So
village
we could, or Irene, somebody could go talk to them to
Oh,
find
absolutely.
out
Oh, yeah.
what they're, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Oh, if
Thank
you wanted to, they would be thrilled if you wanted to come tour and see what they've done. Absolutely.
I'm not going there.
It's a nice place.
And just so you know, every community has taken a different approach to how to get here. There isn't a prescription or a prescribed way of doing this. It's new, right? This is not anything any of us have ever had to think about before. It isn't, right? I mean, we had telephone lines, right? And we had dial-up service. Then all of a sudden we had cable. Now we're talking fiber, and it was all handled for us by someone, right? We're talking about an entirely new concept and asking people to think about something that they've never had to think about before. And you know what? It's complicated, and it's technical, and it's not easy. And so there isn't, a prescriptive way of getting here. And this isn't the only solution either. There's a lot of them out there. And so exploring what those options are, really better understanding the needs of the community, and what it takes, because while financially it may not impact you through a tax structure, because that's not what we're looking at, others it does, right? And so there's a lot of ways to getting at this. And so if you were to go out to Sherburne, New York, or go out to Ammon, Idaho, or Mountain Home, Idaho, they've all gotten here a different way, and taken a different path. And so I like this path that East Haddam is exploring. It's very inclusive and transparent, and I think that you as a community will, over time, if you choose to go down this path, it really is going to be all for one and one for all. And I like that very much. That is true to our core and our philosophy at Entry Point, and so we fully support your approach that you're taking. Yes.
Hi, Ken Tosi.
Okay.
I just wanted to circle back to the financing.
Okay.
I get some clarification, please. You said $13 to $18 million in infrastructure startup costs. You guys are going to secure that money through loans, grants, or whatever. So there's no liability for the town.
Correct.
So none of the monthly costs have any of that amortized in it to pay you guys back? How do you get that money back?
So it is, so those costs, so obviously money's not free. So those infrastructure, so when I talked about the business model being three-pronged, the infrastructure cost, that $18 million, is in that $70 to $75 a month. So what we're talking, what I think when Tom says, no cost to the town, there's not going to be an additional tax, right? Which many towns do. Or the town is, not going to take out a bond, which, there's then a tax associated with that. So that's the objective, is there's not going to be a tax of that nature, but we will have to pay the costs, right? So that's what's been included in that $70 to $75. But
So
once, go ahead.
So you guys will still own the infrastructure?
Someone will.
Okay, but we won't. We're paying for it as part of our monthly fee, correct?
The idea long-term is that the town buys the network back. And so it's almost like a given, right? It's a secure, you will have the revenue coming in if the town were to buy this infrastructure to pay for the cost of it. So there would be no new money needed, if that makes sense, if the town were to purchase this back over time.
Yeah, so I'm thinking it's a 25-year plan to buy it back or something like that.
Yeah, and again, right, it depends on,
Yeah.
so there are these different programs that the federal government has, so it depends on the interest rate that we can get, the time, is it 10 years, is it 20 years?
Okay.
All of those things still need to be.
So somebody else is going to own the infrastructure. We're going to be paying, we have it amortized in our costs. So what's to prevent that owner from raising the prices on us over time like the other providers do on a regular
A
basis?
contract.
Pardon?
A contract.
And how long is the contract for?
We'll work through, so again, I would assume it would be for the amount of time where the town then has the ability to buy it back. Like, the objective would be for the town to own the infrastructure long-term, so that's how the contract will be written.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Ernie Malv asked another couple questions. One is, do you support a VPN on your?
So you don't need one.
Well,
So through the network, because it's a direct fiber line to your home, you have the ability to create your own private networks. So I didn't really want to get into that because it's a little bit more complicated, but you have the ability to turn on and off private networks at the switch.
but if I want to use a VPN, if I want to use a VPN
I
to,
think I know what, sorry, I think I know what you're asking. So you're talking about if you're working from home, does it support your company VPN?
could be, but no, I was thinking more of use a VPN to hide who you are.
Oh, absolutely. So it doesn't act any different than you would than Frontier, Xfinity, any of those
So I can
carriers.
use any of the VPN I'm currently using on the network. Second one, what is the time frame you think a build out? Are we talking 3 years, 5 years?
So I think the build ideally from the time we start would be 2 to 3 years objectively. If we can get it done sooner, that would be the goal.
Thank you.
Sherburne, New York they're about half your size, and I think they'll be fully built out in about 1.5 years total, from beginning to end.
Every home.
So they have not done any advertising, and I don't think that will be every home. They'll have fiber ran down all the streets, and then the drops to the homes will just be based on subscribership, who signs up. But they'll be completely ready for any new drops for anyone who hasn't already received service in about 1.5 years.
How does the service, the fiber network, pay for the additional costs of those people who have said, I'm going to wait, I'm not going to be in the immediate 60%, I'm going to wait, and then if I like it or I hear good things, then I'll sign up. So how does those additional drops that you just mentioned get added into the costs going forward, or is it already built in?
It's already built into the costs.
It's already built in. Thank you.
What happens, Amalia Shaltiel, what happens in East Haddam? Our main problem is trees falling on lines. What happens then?
I wish Craig was here. So the resiliency of these fiber lines is much stronger than a telephone or electrical wire going down. And so Craig did share with all of us that he's had fiber lines go down that still work when the power goes out.
So, so we could have, even though you don't have electricity, you could still have internet?
Because it's running through the fiber line, through the network. Your computer's not going to turn on. Your television's not going to turn on.
The computer is
But
charged.
the emergency services, that's the whole objective, right? At the end of the day, is the emergency services. So again, when this was originally kind of designed and invented, it was for rural America, right? An emergent situation. And so the idea is that you are still connected. So you can still get alerts. You can still, since people don't have telephones in their home as much anymore, right? Landlines, everybody has cell phones now. The emergency service centers really lost ways to communicate with people. And so this was really born from that concept of being able to keep people connected on some level, right? I'm not going to say that you're still going to be able to watch your Netflix, but from an emergency perspective, you will still be connected.
Okay, I'm gonna try and just simplify it. This box does not run on electricity. It does not have to be, what we have, the router is on electricity, and so when the power goes off, I can't access my Wi-Fi because it runs the router. So this box is not running on electricity?
So it is, but it's still able, because it's connected to the network, it's still able to communicate. So someone much more technical than I should answer that question, and they're not here today. So I will make sure, I'm going to write a note that we put that in an FAQ as how it works online.
Could those boxes have a battery in them so that if the electricity goes down, I would still have the connection, and my computer is charged already, so I don't have to have it in the electricity. So with that, if I can see that there's a battery operated connector and the wire is down, but it can still function, then I will still have connectivity through this fiber optic. And then again, my next problem is that I don't have a telephone without Wi-Fi. So would I then be able to use this connectivity for my phone so that I would still be connected with my phone? Those are, the basic questions.
Yeah. I will have our engineering team create kind of a response to each one of those and how it works. And we'll post that on the website because I think that that's a really important distinction. So we'll get that written out for you, absolutely. Yeah.
My name is Bruce Dubé. Could you give us the address to the website?
Yes, I can. Right there. Great question.
It's on the handouts
Yeah,
that
and
you
it's
all
on the
got.
handout.
It's on the bottom of the handouts too that you got.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
So I want to say thank you so much to all your questions. And as you know from Amaya's last questions, this is ongoing conversation. We're going to add to the frequently asked questions list on the on the website. We're here to answer whatever questions or get the technical expertise to be able to answer the questions. So please don't hesitate to continue with your questions and ask them. We're going to have another one of these conversations at noon, specifically more toward the business side of things. So if you want to come back and hear it again, or maybe come, after a quick lunch, you might think of a few more things that you want to come back, please feel free to do so. And then tonight at 7, maybe we'll get some of the technical questions answered if we can reach out. And hopefully maybe at 7 we might be able to answer, your last questions, Maya. Thank you for those. Other than that, thank you so much for coming.
That was a really good turnout.
Question.
It's kind of a minor thing, but I see how easily you.
Just trying to, I'm not sure what I'm missing.
Every time I set up my mail on my new.
I'm currently Comcast or
Okay.
Xfinity,
Yep, so
total 194. And it's, I have the select double play, 122, and then they throw in, all the broadcast fees, so that's where I'm at. So I'm trying to figure out, here's my little primitive picture. These are my telephone pole, out on the line. We got electricity's at the top. So Xfinity has its own wire.
Yes.
Frontier has its own wire. So what you guys are proposing is putting another wire in, a fiber wire.
Yep, and unfortunately Teresa Glover wasn't here, but she's really close to how the permitting works, but
Right.
but in a nutshell.
Yeah, so I mean,
but in a
it'd be
nutshell-
another thing that they're tapping into from the pole.
Well, in a nutshell, because it's municipal, we have a right of way that these guys don't have, and they have to pay for the pole that Eversource
Okay.
owns.
All right,
So
but-
we actually, if you will, we're probably at the top of the pole, right?
Okay,
Because we have
move
railroad
it up,
right.
that's fine.
Right.
But my issue is, okay, I decide, okay, let's go with this, I tap into it, comes, get it to my house.
Yep.
This box, I don't know, was it BGG was the box or B?
Whose line you're on, right? So we have
BGD?
Hulu, we have
Yeah, whatever.
Hulu, we
It's
have
basically a virtual game.
Netflix,
So it's
Prime,
initial,
we have
so
Paramount,
fiber
and
comes into
then
that box.
like everybody.
I don't know if
All of those
something then goes to a router.
But anybody who has
It basically is very similar
private
to
streaming channel.
where you plug, it basically acts as that router. So right now, we're,
It would take
depending if
out
you have a,
Wi-Fi?
yeah, depending if you have a combo box that does your Wi-Fi and your like cable modem,
Right.
this would just be that Ethernet connection that either you would go directly into
Why
something,
won't we offer our
say your
services
Wi-Fi,
through an open access
Wi-Fi
network, and then
access
it won't
point.
be, then it'll be moot.
Or you
Well,
would-
right now, my router
So you would have
sends
to
out the
pay,
Wi-Fi,
and then
or
it would take
I go,
Do you- okay,
like,
so at home, so do you have like an Eris, like a little
yeah,
beige?
yeah,
Okay.
well, that's my router,
Okay.
computer
Yep.
modem.
Yep.
So I'm driving TV, Ethernet to a
Okay, everything
PC,
off that, right.
and then Wi-Fi to laptops and phones.
Right.
So trying to, but basically, when I come in here, and we're at this point, we got we're paying $75, is for that to get in here. But I've got nothing, I can't do anything at that point yet.
Well, you would have an Ethernet port that you could connect into whatever you want.
Right, but there's no information, there's no internet access.
Yeah, there is. So once it gets to this box,
Yeah.
you have a port on there, you have internet.
But you're not providing, I have to be paying for Xfinity or somebody else.
Well,
for
that's
the
where.
ISP.
Not a teaser rate.
Oh, so that's where you go on the sign up page and
Yeah.
whomever,
And pick an ISP.
you pick an ISP.
Right, so in my case, it would probably be, I could get this, same package, the double play.
Well, all that.
I'm just trying to see, I don't see a cost benefit yet.
So in theory, all that will change, right? Because in theory is that we will have to be
And it's never
competitive
a gig,
Yeah.
that's my point.
at
They
gig
say it's
rates,
a special
that
service, but it's never
Xfinity,
the same.
Frontier, all the providers, you may even get AT&T. Because again, they're not having to run the infrastructure like they're
Right, so that piece goes away for
That
them,
piece
so they
goes
should
away,
be able to
right?
offer me a